For the last few months, I've been attempting to make electronic music. Attempting, yeah, being the keyword there. I've never really been one to buy into labels like type A or creative type or anything like that. But whenever I try and attempt to do or learn something artistic or creative, it does genuinely feel like I'm operating against my very nature. Like I'm going against the grain. I like dissecting problems. I like figuring out how stuff works. But ask me to create something original and instantaneous existential crisis. And let me tell you, music confronts you with your inadequacies pretty immediately. When I'm writing, at least there's like a buffer of some sort between me and knowing what I've done is awful. Like somebody has to read my stuff and then carefully, probably kindly, uh, tell me it's garbage. But with music, my own ears can tell when it's dog ass right away. All right, let's give this a listen. And so I thought I'll start simple, right? I'll I'll recreate some of my favorite songs just to learn, what electronic music production is like. Learn the vocabulary and the instruments and all that jazz, right? And you know what? That part was pretty fun. It was like figuring out how certain sounds got made or how to configure a particular instrument used in a song, or even what instruments were used. It felt like solving a puzzle. But then, inevitably, ambition kicked in, and I was drawn like a moth to the flame to try and create my own music. And I thought, hey, you know what? I'll sample some old disco tracks. I'll find a couple drum loops on the internet. Bada bing, I'm the next sensational French robotic duo. It turns out that sampling is literal witchcraft. Daft Punk were doing absolute sorcery all the way back in the 90s with like clay tablets and mammoth bones or whatever. I actually have no idea how they made any of that sound good. All I've done is discover new ways to make good music sound terrible. I think the worst part is that I genuinely thought I had a leg up. I've been playing guitar for like 20 years. I've taken like a decade or something of voice lessons. I can't sing still, but I took them anyway. And I know enough music theory to know like modes exist. So I thought that would translate into making good music. It turns out knowing stuff is not the same as knowing how to make stuff with that stuff. And honestly, this process has made me feel something I've felt before with writing or making a D&D campaign or something. And it's the feeling that I may have never had a truly original creative thought in my entire life. Imitation? Sure. Performance? Yeah, I can do that, I think. At least to some degree, more comfortably than creating. Creating something from nothing? It's pure agony. It's awful. And there is this like mysterious, ineffable quality to actual creativity. I don't know what it is. It's like that Scrubs clip.
I don't know what it is, but he's got it.
Just like that, but the opposite. Had I known about Adderall like 20 years ago, maybe I would have become a better student. Maybe I'd have stayed with physics and I'd be building rockets or planes or something right now, or like hitting the Large Hadron Collider with a wrench or whatever physicists that work for a living do. But for me, and admittedly, it's not been very long I've been trying to do this, but attempting to be creative in this way feels like aspiring to be competitive in Olympic pole vaulting. Technically possible, sure. Realistically achievable in this lifetime? Probably not. And yet, I can't stop myself. At a certain point, it feels like I'm playing an RPG and I've been just dumping skill points into whatever I felt like. And now I'm approaching the late game, or maybe I'm in the late game already. And I've just realized now, way too late, that my build is shit. And I like really need to do a skill point reset. When's that getting patched in? I'm not really sure where I'm going with this. I'm just very frustrated with this process. So, stay in school, I guess. Or don't. Maybe just don't try and be Daft Punk. Anyway, later.
Should've stayed in physics, built some bridges, instead I'm making music, nobody listens. Should've stayed in physics, built some bridges, instead I'm making music, nobody listens.